Hello and welcome to our first inaugural podcast. I'm Ryan Parish with the Western Front, and I'm here with a couple guys. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
My name is Elliott, reporter for the Western Front.
My name is Morgan Stilp-Allen, and I'm also with the Western Front.
All right, we're here under our working title sports podcast. We're going to be doing bi-weekly, hopefully, is the anticipation. So let's just get into it. The Pro Bowl is currently happening right now as we speak. We're not watching it. Nobody's really watching it. It's kind of been the trend for the last couple of years. We got the NHL All-Star Game coming on a little later. John Scott's been a controversial issue about all that. So it seems like generally these All-Star Games used to be a really popular thing for sports, and now no one really watches them, no one really cares. Let's talk about why we think things are going wrong for them and how we think maybe we can fix them.
They're trying to fix them with the new format in the Pro Bowl. I think it's kind of fun. What do you guys think?
It's okay. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to change things up. The basketball All-Star Game has been doing that too with their dunk contests and things like that, and they've had some reasonable success. And Pro Bowl brings in a couple of greats and Michael Irvin and Jerry Rice to draft teams, but overall I still think it's a harder question, or it's an easier question to ask than to have answered, because we're having this sports podcast right now. We're not even watching the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I'm not really losing any sleep over not watching it right now. I don't know. My problem with the Pro Bowl is, first off, when you tune in, you're not watching a football game. You're just not. There's a bunch of guys. They don't want to get hurt. I don't blame them. They have really nothing to gain. I think the winning team, everybody gets $50,000, but Vontaze Burfict loses that a game just in the penalties he gets. So what's really the incentive to go? It's more of just a name recognition value, I guess. But at this point, if you get elected, chances are you're probably not even going. Russell Wilson's the only quarterback that was originally selected that's going. Tom Brady's not going. Ben's not going. Cam's in the Super Bowl, so he can't go. I don't know. It seems broken, and I don't know if they're going to be able to really fix it.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do. For me, the All-Star Game that I like the most is the baseball one, because they have something to play for. They're playing for home field advantage in the World Series. And with these All-Star Games, there's not really a way that you can do that for it, so it kind of makes it hard to incentivize athletes. And then as fans, we know that they're there just kind of horsing around or whatever, so it doesn't have the same type of impact that watching the Seahawks or whoever on Sundays has.
Yeah, there really needs to be something at stake, and like you were saying, Ryan, the competition level just isn't there. I remember watching Pro Bowl games with Brian Moorman getting crap knocked out of him by Sean Taylor. And that just isn't there anymore. Guys just don't want to get hurt, and it's no fun to watch when they're playing patty cake on the line.
Yeah, I think they need to bring the skills competition back. Back in the day, they used to have those quarterback challenges. I think that's kind of what the NBA's been doing, and what the NHL's been doing to try to spice things back up, is to re-emphasize the skills. And I think that'd be fun to watch, because if you're not going to be playing real football out there, I'd like to see who can throw the ball the farthest, or who's actually the fastest wide receiver in the NFL, or who can make the most crazy one-handed catches or something. You got to spice it up. I remember watching some old footage of the ones they used to do where it was Brett Favre and Jim Harbaugh just going at it in the skills competition. I thought that was pretty vintage and great. So I don't know. The NHL's got its own controversy with it, with John Scott. For those of you who don't know and don't follow the NHL, John Scott is basically an enforcer, which means he plays a couple minutes a game when you need somebody to get knocked out. He goes in, takes care of business, gets in a fight, gets put in the penalty box, and that's about what he does. With Phoenix, he was on a team that was actually doing pretty well. No one really expected a lot out of him this year, and they were winning games, and he was feeling like he was doing pretty good. And it kind of started as a joke that the fans wanted to vote him in, and he got voted in, but then the NHL didn't really like that, and so they tried as hard as they could to get him out of it. So what do you guys take on the whole experience?
For me, we've been saying, it's all about the fans, and they did the fan vote for I think it's the first year the NHL did the fan vote, and he got voted in. The fans love him. He plays his position, the enforcer, better than anyone else in the league. And I don't think it's fair for the NHL to say, we don't want to see any fighting in the All-Star Game, so we don't really want you to go. I'm sure he wouldn't pick a fight with anyone in the All-Star Game. We don't really know because we're not watching it right now. But Yeah, I mean, the poor guy, he's got a family, he's all settled in Arizona, and the NHL calls him up and tells him, hey, what do your kids think of you? It's just really, it's sickening for me.
Yeah, he wrote a article in the Players Tribune where athletes just go on there and write various articles. Russell Wilson has written some, Derek Jeter, other guys like that. And he wrote an article basically telling about his love for the game that we all have as people that have played in their younger years, and then basically to have all that attempted to be taken away and just the impact that that has on somebody. Obviously, he's not a Jaromir Jagr or any of those guys, but I mean, people wanted him in there and they voted him in there, and it just wasn't right for the NHL to do what they did, and he sure made his feelings known.
Yeah.
If you want to read a good article, check that out on the Players Tribune.
I mean, because they've effectively ended this guy's career. They shipped him out of Phoenix. Phoenix traded him, which is unheard of for a winning team to trade away an enforcer. Trade away any key piece, really, when you're winning. Mm-hmm. And they sent him to, I don't remember, is it Edmonton? And then Edmonton essentially sent him down to, like, what the equivalent of the NHL's minor leagues is. And dude's 33, is that right?
Yeah.
So it's like this guy has basically been exiled out. Last night they did the skills competition, and like predictably he didn't win any of them. I don't think anybody was expecting him to come out and win all the skills competitions. But I mean, everybody else is out there in their team jersey, and only after the major fan outcry did the NHL say, "Okay, we'll let you play," but he has to go out here in this generic NHL
It was awkward.
jersey. Like he wanted to come out. I heard he wanted to come out with his like minor league hockey jersey just for amusement's sake.
Stick it to the NHL.
But I mean, the NHL. Being the fun police, didn't let that happen either.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to open up to fan vote, you can't restrict it like that. There's instances where fan voting isn't the best. This past year, the MLB had their own problem where almost the whole Royals team got elected in on the AL, and then in the NBA, in years where Kobe's not even playing, he makes the All-Star game. I get why he's in there this year, but when he doesn't play and he gets in the game, those are pitfalls to it. But this guy was obviously somebody that people wanted to see, and they respect what he brought to the table for the Coyotes, and that's what they wanted. And if you're going to have a fan vote, you got to stick by that.
All right, so I think next on our list is we're going to talk about Jordan Morris and the recent Sounders signing. As you all know, he had the option to sign with Werder Bremen in Bundesliga. So what do you guys think about the signing?
Well, I'm just stunned that he's staying for the MLS. I mean, I think this is actually not only a huge move for the Sounders, but potentially the legitimacy of the MLS as a place to go, because in Europe, they kind of laugh at the MLS. The MLS is where they send their age stars to kind of have a soft pillow to retire on, still make a few bucks, still get to play the game, but not have to worry about the fierce level of competition as much. So I don't know. I think it's exciting that he chose. I think it's even more exciting that he's from Washington. I think that's a cool story. What do you guys think?
Oh, it's great. As a Sounders fan, we weren't really sure if we were going to get him. Last year, he shot the Sounders down in order to go back to Stanford, which paid off for him. He was the best player in college and won a national championship with the Cardinal. But just him picking the MLS over Bundesliga is huge. Obviously, Werder Bremen isn't PSG or anybody like that, but just the fact that he's choosing the MLS over that, like you said, just gives notoriety to the MLS. And if we can continue to get the good players from America to stay in America and play in the MLS, then the MLS can rise up as a superpower like the NFL and the MLB and NBA and those things are.
I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying. It's a really big deal, but at the same time, I think it's a no-brainer for Jordan Morris. I mean, his dad is one of the doctors on the Sounders team. It's essentially the same offer in terms of monetary value to play for Werder Bremen, and they're at risk of relegation. I don't know. For me, a second-tier Bundesliga team equates to the same competition level as another MLS team, and I don't know, it's great to see the homegrown player, and he got the biggest contract in MLS history for an homegrown player. I think it's great for the Sounders organization.
It's definitely smarter on his part too, because he's already coming up through the U.S. men's national team and made some appearances in the under-20. Just scored a goal last year in a friendly against Mexico. So he's been on our radar for a while, and he'll continue to be on our radar, and that's a good thing for American soccer as a whole, and just for kids growing up playing soccer to have a new face of the game to look at, and the face of the game be from the area, staying in the area, and potentially, hopefully, having the same success he did in college. And with that, into some more local sports, we got Pac-12 basketball on the docket. Last night, Huskies took on USC in Southern Cal, came up a little bit short, but they're still second place, tied for second place in the Pac-12. Playing some good basketball with 4 starting freshmen. Not to say that the fifth guy is a slouch. Andrew Andrews, their super senior, leading the way with 21 points a game, over 6 assists a game. Not getting the love that he should be by national media. Neither are some of the diaper dandies like DeJounte Murray, but there's reason to be excited about the Husky team even this year, even though we thought it'd be a year, maybe even more down the road. What do you think about that?
I think it's really incredible what they're doing, especially you look at them, they have the worst scoring defense in the league, and they have the worst defensive rebounding in the league, and they have the worst field goal shooting percentage in the league, but they're tops in scoring offense, and they're only 4th in the Pac-12 standings. So I think it's really incredible, and the way it'll be interesting to see how they stack up against Arizona and Oregon down the stretch.
Yeah, and Arizona just lost, which helps them out. Lets them be known that they can be beat. Oregon's another team that they'll be looking at. UCLA, who they've now knocked off twice, those are good wins. As far as the last bracketology that Joe Lenardi on ESPN brought out, they were in the tournament as a 12 seed. I don't know what the trips to the LA schools leads them at, but they're definitely arriving ahead of schedule. There's a lot of stuff to work on, like you just said, but to have 4 true freshmen starting is pretty remarkable to be second in the Pac-12.
I would like to point out the Oregon Ducks are currently first place, and as a fan all my life, that's pretty exciting. I do notice that it looks like there's several teams, though, that actually have very decent records. I think there's a couple teams that have 17 wins. If I'm looking at it right. There's Utah, USC's up there, Oregon. They all have about 6 wins in conference. So, I mean, Pac-12's looking to make some moves for the tournament this year, that's for sure, if they can all keep it up.
Yeah, there's not really one really scary team in the Pac-12. You could say Arizona or whoever. I mean, Utah's good. They got good bigs, which is the biggest problem for the Huskies. Side note, they don't have a lot of bigs. But I think they could have the most teams in the tournament when March rolls around. They might not have a team roll to the Elite Eight or Final Four even, but I mean, it's a pretty deep conference. It's kind of like how the football is. You get down to towards the bottom, and even if you get Oregon State, it's not a walk in the park. When you got to guard Gary Payton,
the glove kids, yeah. The gloves kids,
6
there.
assists per game.
Yeah, and he's stuffing the stat sheet, and I mean UCLA, who's below and middle of the pack, they got Alford, and he hits from anywhere on the floor. I mean, the Pac-12 is getting up there. It's not where other ones like the Big Ten and Big 12 are. They're definitely getting there, and Huskies are right there.
Yeah, I mean, you never know when it comes to tournament. At this point, you're just playing to make the tournament, and you never know what happens in the tournament. It seems to me like a Pac-12 team always makes a run. It's kind of usually the surprising team. I think it was a couple years ago Oregon made a run that no one really saw coming. I want to say last year UCLA. Maybe I could be wrong there, but I feel like UCLA made a pretty decent run.
Arizona always gets pretty far, too.
Arizona's, just basketball's their thing. They've always been pretty good at basketball. So, I mean, you get those mid-level seeds. The mid-level seeds tend to usually make pretty big runs in the tournament. So
even if you get a lot of Pac-12 teams that are going to fall short this year in the tournament, I still think that there's enough young talent to keep this conference going for a while, especially like you were pointing out, 4 starting freshmen on UW. It'll be sad to see Andrews go. He's got 22.7 points per game and roughly 6 assists per game. So do you think that's going to hurt them next year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, anytime you lose a guy like Andrews has been a mainstay for the Huskies for a while. But I mean, with what Romar's doing right now, I mean, he's kind of saving his job this year. It was almost kind of in flux. Not to say that I think he should have gone or anything like that, but there were whispers after him being there for a while. He's the longest tenured Pac-12 coach. But just the fact that this team has arrived way ahead of schedule, and to have these guys hopefully develop, stay in school, the Husky program's on the way up, and they got things going right in the future.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. See you next time.